This episode is sponsored by our friends over at Keeps. Bulgari just broke the world's record for the world's thinnest watch again, and I think this is absolutely moronic. So today we're going to be talking about why I think that Bulgari chasing this title for world's thinnest watch is actually an extreme misallocation of their resources. Instead of focusing on things that really matter to their brand. A, sizing. These watches, the Bulgari Octo Finissimo is brilliant, but for many, many people, it is too large. And B, their pricing structure, right? Their go-to-market strategy has left, a lot of folks saying, wow, the price online is like half the price I can get it in the store. That's not how luxury brands ought to behave. Take a page out of Rolex's playbook. Take a page out of anybody. This is bad. It's bad news bears, guys. So today we're going to be very critical about Bulgari. I'm wearing a Audemars Piguet Royal Oak that I'll tell you all about later. This watch is super relevant to today's conversation. Whether or not Gerald Genta designed the Bulgari Octo Finissimo, we'll get into that later. And on my desk, Vare sent in a Dirty Dozen watch that they wanted me to kind of take a look at. I'm absolutely blown away by this watch. I think it's great. We'll talk more about it later and why I think that you want to know about it. I didn't know about this brand until recently on TikTok, actually. Best thing to happen to me on TikTok. This is a $529,000 ultra-thin watch that, yet again, is taking the title for world's thinnest watch. This time, not from Bulgari. They're not taking their own title. They're taking the title away from Richard Mille, who took it away at the time from Bulgari. This is this, for lack of a better term, pissing match between these brands. Piaget has also historically been in the running, but Bulgari really seems to be the brand that is deploying the most resources to win this, to hold this title. And I think my point here is it's not that Bulgari shouldn't hold the title. I think it's quite a nice title. I think that ultra-thin watches are really interesting parts of history. Ultra-thin, even uncomplicated watches are incredibly complicated to make. The ultra-thin category holds a very special place in my heart. This competition really, was a big part of 20th century watchmaking, right? Mechanical watchmaking that started about 1950s with Piaget's 9P caliber, but, it was stylish. It was cool. It was something that people really cared about. And today it's waned quite a bit. But I think the main point I have here is that Bulgari has way bigger fish to fry. And that's why this is moronic. It's not that the category of watch is moronic. I mean, whether or not we like this watch, aesthetically is whatever. It doesn't matter. But it's not that I don't think this is a great achievement. I think you've got more important things to tend to. In fact, I think that Bulgari choosing to chase this title while simultaneously neglecting two other major problems within their brand, right? That's the problem here. It's not that they hold the title. Not that they're chasing the title. It's that they're chasing the title, they're allocating the resources to chase this title, and simultaneously neglecting, these two massive holes in this arguably sinking ship. So what are the two holes? Well, sizing and pricing structure. These are the two, kind of clouds of impending doom over the Bulgari brand. The first, sizing, I think might be fixed down the road, but pricing structure, I don't think so. So let's break down the two. Sizing. The Octo Finissimo is not remarkably large. It's a 40 millimeter watch with, 5.15 millimeters in thickness. It's actually, relatively speaking, so far as sports watches are concerned, completely, normally sized. We're used to 40 millimeters, right? From the Submariner, normal size, to Panerai at 45. But why is it that the Octo Finissimo seems so much larger than its competitors? Specifically, other watches that, ride in that wake of Genta's brilliance, right? Other watches that try to juxtapose elegance with industrial design, right? The two big ones being Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, like we've got here, and the other being Patek Philippe's Nautilus, both designed by Genta. What these two watches understood that Bulgari's Octo Finissimo, not to say doesn't understand, but doesn't even attempt to achieve, right, is this dramatic bracelet taper, right? The Octo Finissimo, decisively so, is wider. The bracelet is wider. The watch wears more like a cuff than the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak or like the Patek Philippe Nautilus. Now, this isn't a flaw of design. This is not something that I contend at all. I think the Octo Finissimo is a masterpiece. I think, be it in steel or be it in titanium or be it in all these different finishes, be it in gold, marble even. I mean, these watches are just about flawless, right? But, while proportions aren't a problem, that means to say that I don't think that there's anything actually wrong or flawed with the proportions, right? With the actual, mathematical proportional design of the watch. It is still too big for a lot of people. In fact, for most people, right? Most people that even try on the Octo Finissimo, that go in to the experience with really open mind and they're very excited, are often shocked by the sizing because it is such a departure, right, from the Royal Oak, from the Nautilus, these competitors, right? And keep in mind that only poses, a problem because the watch is clearly positioned as an alternative to those pieces. The Bulgari Octo Finissimo is, in its existence, kind of a statement, right? Historically speaking, the prices have been, fluttering between, $11,000 and $13,000. That's where you'd find these watches, from the boutique, right? At discounts at times, right? This watch's whole existence was to say, this is just as good as those guys, and it's a heck of a lot less, right? And frankly, we're not a no-name brand either. Like, we're kind of a thing. So it was the smart man's, right? The smart, tasteful, and still rich man's Audemars Piguet. Whereas Audemars Piguet almost became, very much like Elvis, an impersonator of itself in the last, 10 years, not really producing anything original, right? I mean, a shadow or a shell of what it once was. So moving on. The whole idea here is, while the design and the proportions are not flawed, many people do feel like the watch is too big for their wrist. They love it in principle, they try it on and they say, unfortunately, it just doesn't work on me. And I wish it did, but it doesn't, right? Now, that's not necessarily my opinion. I think the watch is fantastic. It's certainly big on my wrist, but I think it is fantastic on many, but it's jarring. So the demand for a couple of years now has been, from a big portion of the watch collecting community, will they produce one in 38 or 37, right? A size that seems small on paper, but because the Bulgari Octo Finissimo wears so large for its size, I think a 37 or a 38 millimeter Octo Finissimo would actually, wear like a 40, whereas this 40 is wearing like a 43 or a 44. So this demand on the market is very, very real. I haven't done any market research on this, but I am socially so connected into what people are saying and the comments and the reviews, both by, collectors and novices to industry folks. Everyone knows that there's a burning desire on the market for a smaller Octo Finissimo, right? I can't even, I would jump at one. I would jump at one at $12,000 or $13,000 or $14,000. And I think that a lot of people would too. Just because at the moment, they just can't swing the size. So that's the first thing that Bulgari has yet to address. Now, to be fair, it's not easy making a watch in a smaller size, especially in the movement, which as it is, and this watch is so large. Bulgari very well might have to make another movement. This is a very expensive endeavor, costs millions and millions of dollars in research and development, and it's not easy. They could make the watch larger much more quickly than they could make it smaller in all likelihood, but no one's demanding the watch to be larger, right? So there is a problem there. I'm not saying it's a simple fix, but it is a fix that time and money would fix. Time and money that arguably is being allocated toward chasing the title for world's thinnest watch that I don't think anybody cares about, okay? The second problem, pricing structure. The market has understood that Bulgari Octo Finissimo has always been a real, buy between, $10,500 and $13,000. I believe that, retail $14,000 and you could kind of get them lower. Bulgari would play ball. Everyone was playing ball because, that's really what the watch world was forever, right? Up until like Rolex now, where, or even Omega in many of these models where there's no more negotiation. But historically speaking, we play ball in the watch industry, and that was normal. But unfortunately, two things have happened. A, Bulgari has increased their pricing significantly. Now an Octo Finissimo is $16,100 before taxes. At the same time, their watches are available online from $8,000 or 8 and change up to like 13. And you can have almost any Octo Finissimo, in between that range. There's a world of Octo Finissimi that you can have at like 10 grand. 10, 11 grand, right? And I'm sure that if you like poked around like to dealers and, went the big box retail angle, you could probably stay under 10 on a lot of these watches, right? A lot of dealers just kind of want to get rid of them and pick up a couple $100 in profit and kind of move on, right? So now why did that happen? Well, there are two ways that this could have happened. Either A, and I'm making this up on the fly, but it's certainly true. Either A, so many retail buyers of the Octo Finissimo flip because they just don't like it. Possible. I'm not saying that I have any information as that's happening, but that's possible. So that all these watches end up on the gray market. Or B, the production, the supply of the Octo Finissimo far outweighs the demand. And these watches are finding their way onto the gray market, which is very, very normal rewinding a couple of years ago, right? Like Omega dealers were dumping watches to the gray market. I mean, everyone was doing it, right? This was very common practice. But just because it's common doesn't mean it's good. This is a problem. The average watch consumer or the sort of person that's about to buy a Bulgari Octo Finissimo, and inherently that sort of person is going to be a little bit more of a watch guy, right? It's not the same, character profile, it's not the same client segment, right, as like a Datejust client. Datejust client can just be, any guy, right? If you're buying a Bulgari Octo Finissimo, you're falling into a fairly, like deeply in love with watches, segment. Like you're falling into a pretty educated, in touch kind of industry insider category. Okay. And those folks disproportionately are going to have a more educated customer journey. They're going to Google the watch, right? They're not just like walking by a Bulgari boutique and saying, oh yeah, here you go. Here's my credit card. They're going to Google it. And the first thing that happens when you Google it is you see that they're being offered online for $9,300, $9,800. So if I'm being offered in the store for $16,100 and I'm being offered online at, $93 or $10,500, big problem. Right? I mean, really big problem for the retailer. That is going to stunt their opportunity for sales. I mean, literally at every turn. And even further, on a longer zoomed out, timeline, it hurts the brand's reputation. It hurts the brand's image. Clearly, by moving further and further up market, Bulgari intends on becoming, a richer brand. They're trying to abandon their post quite a bit, like this post of, wow, that's such a great watch, and for the price too. And they're just trying to go to, well, that's just a great luxury watch. That's a very big difference. A lot of the folks that are buying Octo Finissimos for years, such a big part of it was like, wow, this is the watch industry's best kept secret. I mean, for $11,500, you're getting one of the great watches, right? But now that same client coming up at $16,500, almost $17,000, with tax, you're going to take pause. That brand is no longer trying to be that, kind of like value luxury brand. It's a very different thing. So these are the two big problems. Sizing, and not to say that the size is wrong, but to work on their sizing, to allocate the resources, to broaden their, potential market is a no-brainer. And B, this pricing problem, which is almost a larger problem, a larger brand problem. That isn't a product problem. That's a brand structure problem. I mean, this is where Bulgari should be paying attention, right? And it's everywhere, bud. I mean, they're playing stupid games and winning stupid prizes, unfortunately. And that's not to say that World's Thinnest Watch is a stupid prize. I don't mean that. It's great. But nobody really cares, right? Not really. I would be very surprised to see market research that, that proved that, folks are buying Bulgari Octo Finissimos more now than they did before because they reclaimed the title. I don't think anybody cares. It's a $529,000 watch that no one's ever going to own. And Bulgari already has forget about the title, like the cultural, like the point of Bulgari is the fact that they're super thin and super cool and pretty and like, that's the point. You don't need to be the world's thinnest watch to get all the credit for being incredibly thin. Richard Mille did it as kind of a joke. They went and became the world's thinnest watch for a while there, even though that isn't their position at all in the market. Richard Mille sells, kind of like thick, industrial, whatever sports watches. This is, they did it for fun. They did it for kicks. Bulgari is doing it to prove a point, right? To prove a point or to kind of hold their brand position as the ultra thin. You were already that. You're already the brand that's associated with that technology the most, right? Piaget was for a while, maybe even has a more rightful claim to the throne if things were done that way, but nobody cares about Piaget's ultra-thin watches. When's the last time you saw your buddy at a watch event pull up in a Piaget Altiplano? Never happens. It's not real. It doesn't happen. Piaget's got really big problems. Bulgari's actually in a great place compared to Piaget. But anyway, that's the problem. It's misallocation of resources, and that's it. I mean, this is a LVMH brand, so they're going to be just fine. I think that the days, or the future of Bulgari is bright and strong. I do think that this is a misallocation of resources, only because they're not actively plugging these other holes in the boat. But I do think, unlike Piaget, that their future is, solidly bright. Right? Piaget could be right, but it's also probably maybe not going to happen. I'm going to take 60 seconds to thank our sponsor of this video, Keeps. Keeps offers an easy, private, and custom online subscription service that makes it so much more convenient and affordable for men to treat their male pattern baldness from the comfort of their home. With Keeps, you'll get clinically proven treatments that will address your hair loss and your plan for hair regrowth delivered discreetly to your door. All you need to do to get your treatment plan, which is recommended by a licensed medical provider, is complete a quick online consultation. Keeps offers both of the FDA-approved hair loss treatments, as well as a 2-in-1 gel that combines them. Plus, you can adjust, pause, or cancel your plan anytime. To date, Keeps has helped nearly 1 million men keep their hair, and you can be next. So for your special offer, go to keeps.com/Theo Harris. That's keeps.com/Theo Harris. Hair loss stops with Keeps, thanks to Keeps. Let's go back in history a little bit and let's talk about this whole kind of theory of design. Let's talk about what makes the Octo Finissimo so great. It's the same thing that makes this watch great. This is the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. The watch originally in the Jumbo series was designed by Gerald Genta in 1972. A couple of years before, he went on to design the competing watch for Patek Philippe, which is called the Nautilus. And this is a model, again, reference 4100 in fantastic condition. I've owned this watch for quite a few years. I don't wear this watch very much. It's a stainless steel watch, and that's just generally not my jam. But I recently sourced a ladies version, I think a 26mm automatic for a buddy, for his wife's push present. So it kind of like inspired me to break out mine from the safe. What makes these watches so great, the whole theory here, and we've talked about this a little bit, so I won't, dwell on it too much, but what makes these watches so great and so brilliant is this juxtaposition of industrial design and elegant proportions, right? Very similar to Aldo Cipulo, designer for Cartier, when he designed the love bracelet and the Juste Clou. The whole idea is, can I turn something that is obviously industrial, like a nail or a nail head, and can I make it elegant and beautiful? Right? Same thing that Cartier did years later with their Ecru collection. It's a cool idea. It's been done already now. Now you see, designers look at other things and try to make them luxury. I've seen a designer turn a fork into yellow gold and wrap it around a woman's wrist. People do this stuff now. But in the 70s, this was pretty novel. It was a novel idea. As I've mentioned before, I don't think that Gerald Genta was the first person to do it. I think that, Louis Cartier did it years before in the early 1900s, 1904, I believe, with the Santos Dumont. Genta did do it in stainless steel. He changed the definition of luxury forever, right? For better? I don't know, but definitely forever. And these watches really blew up in recent history. Now, the Octo Finissimo was not designed by Genta, or at least that's not really proven. Bulgari as a company did buy Gerald Genta's watch company in 2000, I believe, or a little bit before that, for like $20 million. So they, at that point, certainly designed the Octo collection, the Roma, the Finissimo years later, and it certainly came about kind of in the wake of the Genta design language, for sure. But he did design Bulgari years before. I don't think it was as inspired of a design, but I do think it's pretty neat. We've talked about these watches on the Zero before, which is our podcast community. I think that some of these watches are really, really great value in precious metal. If you want to know which ones, head on over to the Zero and take a look. But long story short, the Bulgari Octo Finissimo, I think, is truly one of the great, I think it is one of the great Genta designs, or designs in, like I said, in the wake of Genta. I think it is a grandchild of Genta's brilliance, be it by blood or by adoption or something, I don't know. But it is I think it's one of the most brilliant pieces. In fact, I think it's better than some of Genta's own watches. I think it's better than IWC's Ingenieur. I think it's better than a lot of things that came out of Genta, right? Even the brand, the Mickey Mouse watches, I didn't find them that interesting or that cute. I thought it was stupid. That's up for debate. But it's a brilliant watch. It's a brilliant watch, and I love Bulgari. I'm a big fan. I'm rooting for them. I just do hope that they address the two elephants in the room before they continue to playing silly little games that I think are a distraction, right? These things cost millions of dollars, and unless you have unlimited money, those millions of dollars are... them going somewhere means they're not going elsewhere, right, where they really ought to be going. So before we sign off here, I did want to show you guys this watch, this Wear Dirty Dozen. Fantastic little watch. I just got it in the other day. They wanted me to take a look at it and kind of shoot back my thoughts. And frankly, I was really blown away. When I opened up this watch, everything about it, I don't know, really impressed me. The quality of the dial, the lume, the size of the crown is... I mean, it's large, it's very functional, and I think it's not an afterthought. It's really pretty. 36 millimeters, absolutely perfect on my wrist. I think the whole watch is great. At $900, it's an automatic that's just finished incredibly well and designed really well, and honestly, can't beat it. I love Dirty Dozen watches. I love the British military, history there. The only problem with the Dirty Dozen watches is, they're the original ones, is they're old, they've gotten pretty expensive, and you're not going to beat them up the way you could beat up a new watch. This is, I mean, look at this on my wrist. This looks amazing. I think it's terrific. I know I shouldn't be wearing it on my right, but I think it's amazing. Wear's done a great job. I'm actually a pretty big fan of their watches. We only just started kind of talking to them pretty recently, just like entrepreneur in the watch space, like talking to each other. I actually saw them on TikTok, believe it or not. I came up in the watch, in a time in the watch industry when the smaller brands, the small affordable brands were like really crappy, right? The Daniel Wellingtons of the world. That's what was popular when I got into watches. So now, fast forward 10 years, and the fact that, the affordable, watches in the category, the watches you can get under $1,000 are awesome. Like they're Swiss automatic, well-proportioned, pieces with design that is, reminiscent of history. It's fantastic. I think Wear did a great job. So right now I don't double wrist, but I do have my Audemars Piguet Royal Oak on my left and this Wear Dirty Dozen on the right. And I think that they're both awesome, obviously for different reasons, but Wear did a great job. Good job to you guys. Thank you all for watching today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Go ahead and subscribe to The Zero if you want more content from Theo and Harris, and we'll see you all soon.